All right, Dad Bod episode 12. You will see deadlifts to start, and it has finally gotten cold in Alabama, so I think I wore a hoodie for this entire training session and most of the next one. That was my last acclimation set, and then it's 3 doubles with 405. Went much more smoothly than a couple of weeks ago before the deload. And you'll see me shake on the way up. I mean, that is a sign of difficulty for me, but that starts happening at like 85% or so of what I would actually fail with. So not a cause for concern necessarily, but yeah, this isn't an easy day by any means. And I mentioned in the last video that I will be changing up the programming a little bit for deadlift and bench press. You'll see some of bench press coming up in the next session, but for deadlift, I'm gonna have to use a little bit of auto regulation. And I think what I'm doing moving forward will be one single with an RPE that is TBD, and then 3 doubles with considerably less weight. And I'll figure out a percentage that makes sense on that. And that will be explained in the next video when I'm deadlifting. So, and then here's the back off set with RDLs. And again, it was very cold this day. It was roughly 30 degrees Fahrenheit outside, so a little below freezing. And anybody who's trained with a barbell regularly knows that things expand and contract. So I actually had no issues with my grip this day. So my hands weren't sweaty at all. So that's part of it, but also just the bar itself is physically different on a cold day, and the friction between the wrist straps and the bar is better. So no issues with the grip on this day, but still looking into some options for VersaGrip or something like that. And very simple training session. So 3 doubles on deadlifts, 2 sets of 8 on my version of Romanian deadlifts, and 3 sets of 10 on leg extensions. This is pretty low volume, but I've mentioned this several times. My quads have always overshadowed every other part of my physique, so I'm not super worried about getting a ton of volume for them. And for my last bodybuilding contest prep, really the only thing I was doing for quads was squat variations, and did not notice any kind of drop off in any part of my quads. So we're on the bench now, 4 sets of 6 with 200. That's pretty conservative. So I'm going to have 4 weeks in a row with 4 sets of 6 on the first bench press day. And I will be adding 5 pounds per week for the next 3 weeks. So should be finishing with 215 for 4 sets of 6, which should be doable. Should still leave a little bit of room, RPE-wise, RIR-wise. But we will see. So if things aren't moving like I think they should, then we'll make another adjustment. But again, this is pretty conservative, and I should be able to get through. And watching this back, the bar speed looks pretty good on this day. I've talked to a couple of commenters about how deloads and lighter weights never feel as easy as we feel like they should. And that was the case for bench press on this day, but bar speed looks good. So I'm mostly pleased with this session. And then the usual pull-up setup, so 4 sets of 8 over here. And I don't know if I've mentioned this, sometimes towards the end, like on the 3rd or 4th set, 8 reps may be total failure. So for at least one set, a lot of the time, I will get 6, maybe 5 to 6 reps, take 20 to 30 seconds, and then get the final reps to give me 8 total for that set. So it's mostly about getting 32 total reps, and I'm not at the point where even that is comfortable, at least not using the style of pull-ups I do now, where I really control the negative and get a full stretch and pause at the bottom. I think maybe a set of 11 or 12 would be failure to begin with. So I'm still doing sets of 8, and if that gets to the point where it's more comfortable, then I will move up to sets of 9, just 1 rep per set will be added. And this is the last set of bench press you're seeing here. And then you'll see one of my chest accessories and another back exercise. It has stayed below 30 degrees Fahrenheit outside in the morning all week. And this garage is pretty much outside temperature, so it's quite chilly in here. Eventually did get warm enough to take the hoodie off on this particular day, but it's way too cold for me to bring the little one out here right now. So we'll see what happens on weekend training sessions. But you'll also see that the next training session, my accessory day, is at the gym at my office. And if I use that gym, I pretty much have to do that training session on my lunch hour, which isn't really ideal. I never feel like I have quite enough time. I do, but it always feels rushed. But I got it done because the little one decided to get up with me around 5 a.m. on Wednesday this week, and there's no way I can bring her out here. It's way too cold. So we hung out in the living room instead of training, and then I got that done at lunch. And you've seen pretty much all of these exercises before, and I've mentioned it in previous videos that I really like this back exercise variation. I just really like the angle. I like the resistance curve. It's not perfect. Most exercises aren't, but again, I really like this one, and it's a little bit easier on the lower back than a barbell or hex bar row. So after deadlifts, I tend to go to this variation. And for those who have asked about it, I am at the very least mentally preparing for the video on my training, and I'm going through older videos I have and photos just to give a little bit of my history and how I got to where I am, because this channel has existed for a long time, but there have been long gaps in posting. So I'm working on it. It's just dependent on my schedule, and I should have some time off for the holidays coming up. So that should help and give me some availability to just start really working on that. So I intend to. You're seeing my triceps exercise here. I like to do an overhead variation, and my elbows aren't as far back as a lot of people's will be on this. This is just where I feel comfortable. So you're seeing this set, and then I'll go straight into my mechanical drop set. So I drop the weight by 2 pins, which is about 20 pounds, and then go straight back into this. That was probably 15 seconds of rest at most. It was sped up, but still not very much time. Go straight into this, and then you'll see the same thing for biceps curls, which I did on the machine on the other side so that I could superset these and go back and forth. And for those wondering about my stats, I'm a pretty short guy, so I'm about 5'8". That's roughly 173 centimeters tall for anyone who uses that. And I'm in the low 190s in pounds, so 87-ish kg. So I'm a thick boy at the moment, but I feel pretty good. My strength feels pretty good. And my guess would be that my arms and legs and chest and shoulders probably measure the biggest they ever have, but my body fat is not super low. I'm not shredded. So that's just how it goes for natural lifters for the most part. Got to put on a little bit of body fat to keep making progress. I will say that my waist is almost certainly larger than it has been too, because I've never been this weight for this long. And you're seeing my drop set of biceps curls here. Ended up having to rest a little bit longer. This just takes a little more out of me than triceps extensions on a cable attachment like this. So did my drop set. I think I dropped this by 3 notches, so roughly 30 pounds. And those plates are 10 pounds each on this rack. I know for sure because I was the one who built this little cable machine. But with a cable attachment, every machine's a little bit different. There's a little bit of a difference between friction levels from machine to machine, a little bit of difference on the angle of the cables. So every machine's different. So the weights on these aren't super important. I use them because I can refer to my last training session and it gives me a starting point. But for anyone watching, they're not super relevant. And then simple abs for this day, 3 sets of hanging leg raises. And if I were not a short guy, it would be difficult to do these on this particular machine because even my feet actually brush the ground at the bottom. And coming up next, you'll see my preferred way to do lateral raises. I really like to do them with cables because you get resistance throughout the entire movement. And I see a lot of people doing this one arm at a time. I'm not sure why more people don't just do it this way because it definitely saves time. And I almost nailed this angle. Really needed to have the camera, which is an iPhone, set up a little higher or a little farther back because you're missing the very top. But I still like this angle overall. You can at least see me for the most part. And I tried to set up the camera in a cinematic way for the mechanical drop set that's coming up, and I just missed. It is not nearly as cool as I was hoping. You can see a little bit of Sam Sulik on the TV. Again, I'm kind of a chill lifter. I basically have commentary on. Sometimes I'll listen to a podcast, and sometimes I'll listen to music too, like a normal person, but I don't do heavy metal or anything like that. It's the same music I would listen to if I was driving a long distance. I'm mostly a chill person. So, but yeah, you're seeing the last set of 8 here, and then I go straight into, well, not straight into, after a short rest period, I go into lateral raises using 15-pound dumbbells, and I've just sped up through the rest period here. Probably 30 to 40 seconds, a little bit longer. This is a little later in the training session and needed a little bit more rest, but just go straight in, and I either got 10 or 12 here. You can count for yourself, I guess. And yeah, so I was trying to get an angle in the mirror that would show both sets, the one on the cables and the one here, and just missed. Like I said, should have been way farther to the left so that I'm not blocking my own camera's view. But you live and learn. And that's it for lateral raises. You'll see my calf raise set up at the work gym. I just used the belt attachment for the cable and then used these little step boxes for my feet. And this version works pretty well. It's kind of uncomfortable for me to do one calf at a time on calf raises, so I'm pretty much always going to do both feet at the same time. But that is pretty much it for this episode of Dad Bod. Please like, share, and subscribe if you liked it, and don't if you didn't. I appreciate it.